the series Principles of the Martial Arts. So let's go back and review a couple of things with tossing. I think there's some misunderstandings, and I think there might be some misunderstandings among some people about what this series is trying to accomplish. So what you want to realize is these principles I'm talking about exist in all martial arts. Now, we'll call them rules, right? So we try to follow these rules. However, as we know in anything we do, rules are made to be broken. Once you get a handle on the rules, the principles, and you're able to move a certain way, after you've accomplished that through training and working the way I'm telling you to work, now the goal is, well, can I put it all together? And can I move quickly while maintaining my balance in combat? So, I heard a lot of comments that, this is static movement. Okay, we're training. Training is to develop a skill in the body. Once you've developed that skill, now can you elevate that skill? Can you now use that skill where you can really move, where you can close distance on your enemy and move in a way that's totally in balance, where you're not falling over, you're not losing your balance, you're forcing your opponent to lose his balance. So these videos are giving you a training method to develop abilities in your body, okay? So obviously in all the combat I was in, I wasn't moving like this and then shifting and then dealing with my opponent, It was here and it was moving. But when I moved, I maintained my balance, especially if I was fighting more than one guy, okay? So just understand that these videos are about teaching you principles, teaching you about certain rules, okay? So I want people to understand that. The goal is to be able to take these principles, put them all together, utilize them in your body, I don't know about you, but when I was coming up through the ranks, I had many teachers that talked about certain principles. But then when they moved, they weren't demonstrating those principles, okay? And when I met Chen Zhanghua, that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, whoa, wait a second. That's the principle they talk about. He just did it with his body, all right? So that's what this series is about. It's about giving you the tools, the training things, right? The understanding of certain principles and rules so that eventually you put it all together and you move like a well-oiled machine in a fighting situation, okay? So I just wanted to clear that up and mention that. Let's talk about today's. Today's will be a little bit shorter, all right? I often mention in my videos and talk about the rod. So today we'll talk about the rod. So I see many people in Isshinryu, okay? They come out in Seisan, and then they lean back a little bit, and then they lean in when they throw their punch and come back like this. And you'll even see some senior Isshinryu sensei on my channel. If you look through the videos, you'll see them moving in this way, okay? No good, all right? So one of the principles is there's a rod through the center of your body. The rod attaches to the floor. It attaches to the ceiling. It's a solid steel rod. I can't bend it this way. 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 So all I can do is I can rotate around that rod. Now, if you look at my head, you see my head's not moving, right? My body's rotating around that rod, okay? So this is the rod that goes through the center of the body. Now, if my foot's forward, like in Seisan, or if I'm in this position, which is like the Chen style Taiji, okay, again, the rod is here through my body. I don't punch like this, okay? My body rotates around the rod, okay? That's what it does, which creates torque on the body, which creates power. It's the same in Isshinryu with our Isshinryu punch, okay? I don't go, just with my arm, right? No, I'm here and my body rotates around that rod. So this is, again, where the misunderstanding of the snap punch comes in. A lot of people in Isshinryu do this. They throw the punch and they snap it. And my favorite is this, where they punch like that. No one can punch like that. Show me a boxer who punches like that. Okay? So you punch straight out. Now, what you do is you rotate around the rod, the fist goes out. When you rotate back, that's what retracts the arm, which I talked about in the previous video. So the rod is real. Another thing I say all the time, you have to feel that rod through your body, not allow yourself to lean or to lean back, okay? Again now, we're not talking combat. We're talking a training device to teach and train our body to move at a high level. Okay, you think I never ducked when someone threw a punch at my head? When some criminal decided he was going to try to take my head off? You think I never ducked to avoid the punch? Okay, so did I technically bend my rod? Yeah, okay, but I did it to avoid getting hit. Maybe I was handcuffing another guy and a guy decided to throw the punch, so I ducked my head out of the way, okay? Combat is combat. If you're worried about doing your stances correctly, am I snapping my punch? Am I doing this or am I doing that? Is my balance good? If you're worried about that in combat, you're going to lose the combat. In combat, it's one thing, defeat the guy who's trying to do you harm. End of discussion. And if you look a sloppy mess when you do it, that's okay as long as you win. But imagine what I would have looked like if I didn't train the principles, okay? I might have lost my balance. I might not have moved in a certain way. I might have lost the combat. Then maybe I'm not standing here talking to you, okay? So one rod's through the center, okay? You can have another rod that's across here, the shoulders. So we don't want to move our shoulders like this. So I often get asked in Chen style Tai Chi, when we do fetch water, people say, well, but Mike, this shoulder's going down and this shoulder's up. Okay, but look, did this shoulder go up? No. So when I do fetch water, this shoulder sinks into the waist, right? Okay? But the rod is right here across my body, all right? This second rod, all right? Now, if this shoulder was up, it would look like this. That's a break in my alignment. We don't want that. So this shoulder stays down. This shoulder just sinks into the waist. So again, another example of something being misunderstood. Someone sees me do this and sees this shoulder lower, and they've literally said to me, Mike, your rear shoulder's up. Of course your rear shoulder goes up in fetch water. No, it doesn't. It never goes up, okay? So your shoulder goes up, it's a leak, all right? Which we'll talk about leaking in a future video. So now, let's talk about another rod, a third rod, right? So let's say I decide to go into cat stance, okay? Cat stance, where I'm like this, all right? Now, there's a rod then that runs through my shoulder, waist, knee, down into the foot. So there's a line here. So you screw in and this. Now this becomes totally free. This side of my body is locked in. Now do you see the balance? You see what I can do? So the rods will move with you, okay? So, all right? So this is all very important, all right? You want to feel these rods. You don't want to bend, because if you bend, your balance is lost. You're off. No good. You're not able to change direction like we talked about in the previous tossing video, okay? So rod can be here. Rod can be here. In Kobudo, the rod can be here, okay? Like in Shushi no Kun, okay? We lean like this, all right? When we do this move here, you can see there's a rod that can go this way too, okay? But there's also a rod through here, right? So when I move, if you look at Kusan-ku, you'll see the same rod here, right? But there's also a rod here, all right? And the key is, if I'm fighting and I'm here and I'm going to move, I don't want to move like this. I don't want to move like this, okay? So I have to learn to move where my rod moves with me. There's no wobble in my body. So when I move and close distance, okay, the rod moves with me. If you're wobbly, okay, balance problem. So what you're going to find as we go through this series, and believe me, this series is going to take a while. There's a lot of principles, all right? So I mentioned to someone the other day, it's like we're creating a recipe, right? But initially you have one ingredient, which the first one was splitting, right? And let's face it, if there's only one ingredient in the recipe, how good is it going to taste? So then what we do is we say, oh, let's add this other ingredient. Don't toss, okay? And now we have two ingredients. Oh, things are tasting a little better. Now I'm bringing in the concept of the rod and how you move around the rod. The rod can shift in the body, okay? When you move, the rod doesn't bend, okay? So we see we're beginning to add more flavors. We're adding more ingredients to the recipe. So at the end, when we've gone through all these different principles, we want to try to bring them all together. And if we can do them all, we've got a very, very good recipe, okay? And in this case, that recipe is giving you the ability to move at a high level. This principle-based series that I'm going through, again, my goal is to help you to improve your training and to be able to move at a high level. I'm not interested in mediocre. I'm not interested in being mediocre. If you're interested in being mediocre, then watching my videos is probably not for you. So, again, I showed you in Ishinru, okay? Matayoshi, we see the rod. And, you know, these rods exist, okay, in anything we do. If I'm doing this in Matayoshi, I'm not doing this, okay? I'm not doing this, right? The rod is here. It's through, right? If I'm striking here, the rod is right here. It's through the center of my body, right? So it's something we want to feel, all right? We want to be able to move around that rod. All right, whether it's in kobudo, sword, it doesn't matter. Okay, this is all incredibly important and something we want to work on. All right, so like I said, this one wasn't going to be that long. All right, so think about the rod, see if you're bending and moving, have all this excess movement. All right, and I'll see you for the next one, which we're going to talk about restrictive movement. Thanks.